in as well, so huh? Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead. Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think just before I get started, I'll just go on and share some of the interesting things which I did on the journey, and how the learnings I had on the way. But I think what's most important is that um, I just wanted to focus on how can you guys take that first step, right? That first step is what I want to focus on today. So we are not going to talk a lot about what we did or what we do at Pesto and yada yada. We will be chatting more, and I think I would love to keep it as conversational as possible. And I would love to have everyone who is here. I'd love to get questions and comments, and I'd love to bring up some of you. And I think if there's some difficulty in bringing up people, you can just ask questions in chat, and I'll be answering that. So I think we will try to keep it as conversational as possible, right? Um, but talking about how you can make the first start, right? I think like most of you are in college right now, and I think being in college is one of the most beautiful experiences. Why? Because you don't have any risk, right? Like if you do something, your ability to fail is just maximum right now. If you fail later in future, there are a bunch of responsibilities which will come in. There's a lot of social proof which you will need, a lot of peer pressure you'll have, so on and so forth. But in college, the primary goal which you have is to learn. And something interesting about failures is that you get to learn, guaranteed, right? So I think there is no failure in college, right? So I think I want to spend next 45 minutes trying to convince all of you to start something, whether it's a project, whether it's a website, it's a service, it's a whatever. But I think you need to understand that the next few years of your life are the most golden years. Why? Because it decides the trajectory your life will go into. And I constantly stress on this fact that your life is only 82 years, which is the life expectancy in the US, which we have data for, right? If you're living in Delhi, God bless you. But I think depending upon that, we can conclude that 25 to 30% of your life is gone, and the rest 30% you're going to spend in unproductive things, which are necessary but unproductive, like sleeping. Um, and I think you have hardly like 5 to 10% of your life, which is like, let's say, a decade, 10 years, which is going to decide how you are going to live your life, right? So I think next 3 to 5 years are the most golden years for yourself. Try to maximize learning, and I'll try to teach you how it's like super easy to start something, right? And I think I'll be focusing more on that. But talking about my journey, I think I, just like you guys, went to a college studying, for IITs and physics, chemistry, maths, and the I always say that the Schrodinger's cat has harmed me the most, because I was chasing the cat and I did not know in which direction I was headed. Right. So I think um, you guys are in college with no idea where you are headed most of the times, and which is not bad, because not knowing, not having a direction also gives you liberty to explore, right? So I was in a similar situation. I think I decided to start something. I started with a web consulting firm. I learned how to build website, how to build apps, and how do you design graphics online. And I tried to sell it to people and make money from that. And I took that money and I invested that into my own growth, into my projects, into different things, into getting to certain events, conferences. I built my own network with that, and just kept on investing, in the journey which I had. Right? So I think I look at all of these things as investments in myself. So I think the first step which you want to take is figure out what you are good at or what you want to be good at. Just learn about that from Google and try to start selling that, right? And in the process of selling, you will learn sales, right? And then that's good enough to start, right? And I think I understand you guys are in college right now, but the biggest learning comes from your experiences. Like I always say that there are three things in life which you should not miss. The first one is books, because books took years, decades of sort of compounding value in order to deliver the value they deliver today. Somebody wrote a book, and then thousands of people read it, and then they had their own thoughts and they built on top of that book, and then more people read it and they had their own thoughts and experiences. They added that to it and they wrote new books. So I think that happens all the time, and because of that there's compounding nature in the learning which you have. So always and always try to read books. That's one. Point number two is travel. Books have compounding effect. Travel makes your world bigger. You're living in a bubble right now, and no matter how big your bubble gets, it's always going to be small compared to the world, right? And our responsibility is that we constantly try to pump up the bubble so that our bubble becomes bigger, our world becomes bigger, and then we are in a position where we can make choices, take decisions, take risks, so on and so forth. And the third thing is having a dog, because it took years for humans to make dogs your best friends, right? So if you have dogs, that's cute. I think these are the three things I feel everyone should invest in, right? So I think those are three things which I believe that I would always do any day, and I think everything else will just pile up if you constantly keep doing it and keep improving along in your journey, right? I would love to. I can keep going and talking, but I think what I will lack is perspective which you need. There's a lot I can talk about, but I think I would want to be specific to what your needs are. And I think it'll be great if you can constantly start asking questions, and then I'll start answering those questions with respect to the context, which I believe will be more beneficial for you guys, right? So I think I'll encourage people who are listening to just post stuff, your questions in comments, and and then we can take it from there. Comments. Yeah, awesome. Another thing I think about asking questions, right? One of the interesting things is when you're trying to learn, right? Everything which I just said is like good gyan, but what happens is that this good gyan will be useless for you if you are not a seeker, right? I think I came to realize that curiosity is something which is it's like a one of the rare skills to have, and one of the most beautiful skills to have, because if you're just curious in general, everything else just falls in line. So I've noticed this before, that people are shy of asking questions because how will they appear, what questions to think, yada yada. And I can tell you, I can promise you that people who are here, or your fear of being judged is not going to matter 2 to 3 years from now. It's not. But the knowledge you get, the things you get, is going to matter. And the value which people are adding, for example, Apurva asked the question, right? What was your biggest challenge you faced during your starting up? I'll answer that question, Apurva. But I want to thank you for asking that question first, because I feel, because Apurv asked that question, that is going to get answered for all 50, 60 people who are here, right? So he's actually adding value to everybody who is just sitting there and thinking, um, I'm just here and I'm entitled to some knowledge, but it won't benefit you if you're not a seeker. So I think I generally encourage people to ask questions, and that's the logic behind it. Um, Getting down to first question, I think Apurva, you're asking, what's your biggest challenge you faced during starting up? I think it's so many challenges, Apurva. It's just incredibly hard to figure out which one is the hardest or the biggest as a challenge, which I will sort of call it. But I guess I will list down a few, right? I think one of the biggest things which I faced in the beginning, because I decided to drop out early on. I only spent a couple of semesters in college, and I decided to start up. I think that was a good and a bad decision. Good decision that I saved time. Bad decision that I did not know anything. Like, and I think when you make a decision like that, it's a lot of pressure on you, because there is the thing called unknown territory for you, right? So I think, and that's why I gave this bubble example in the beginning when I started the session. My bubble was too small. I wanted to grow. I could work hard. I could 20 hours a day, and I constantly did for years. But the problem is that you working hard will not matter if your world is small. If you're working hard in a wrong direction, it's just not going to matter, right? So I think working hard is important, but also having the right direction before you start working hard is even more critical, right? So I think the biggest challenge for me was to be a nobody in the middle of nowhere, without knowing anything. How does this work? How do you, if you're trying to sell someone a service, how do you create those contracts? If you're trying to, sort of build something, how do you build it in the first place? The way I started my career was that I went ahead and, sort of sold a website in a particular language or an app by just designing it. And then I just figured out how to make it in the time I have to deliver. I did not know, for example, how to build, an app in any particular language. I just sold the images and the project, and then I just tried to figure out how do I, sort of make it in next few days. So I think if you just think about it from that perspective, always try to make your world bigger. Try to always know things. For example, you don't need to know how law works, because you can get a lawyer for that. But you need to know that these things exist so that you know what you need a lawyer for, right? So I think you don't need to be necessarily good at it, but you need to know that it exists, right? So that's like one thing which I would highly recommend all of you to go in. Just make the world bigger and know more things that will make your life much easier. um, the next question is from Rahul. How can we exactly know what are we good at? That's a great question, Alok. I think there are a couple of things. One is that most of the things which we do today, skill-wise, is measurable, right? Like you just have a website, you can stop trying to contribute to an open source projects, right? And if you contribute to certain open source projects, your value will build up. So I would say try to be a part of communities with it, because you have an average of, 5 people around you. That's almost always the case. So try to curate your surrounding. Try to spend more time with people who you want to be like, who you aspire to be like, etc. Try to find your community and try to learn within that community. And when you spend time in that community, you have a benchmark, right? And then you will get a signal how good you are, how much of your work is appreciated, and how much of your work's value is worth in the market, right? I think there's always a way to quantify that. If you're able to make money, then how much, right? I think that acts as one signal. But apart from that, I think if you're just part of communities, you will know and you will have a good benchmark. Open source communities is something which I highly recommend for people who code. For people who don't code, there are a bunch of communities for product managers, for business people, so on and so forth. Look it up, find them. There are a bunch of Slack channels, especially after pandemic. I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out, right? And from those communities, then try to learn how sort of where you position yourself in that particular skill. Another thing that your average of top 5 people around you is like a very pre-pandemic, a pre-2020 kind of sentence. So I would say not just that, but you're also the average of the top, let's say, 20 accounts. You from one of my friends. It said Netflix launched for free in India. And people went crazy that, oh, Netflix is free for a week, whatever, let's watch Netflix, right? It is not free. It is costing you countless hours and hours of your time. And if you are someone who believes that Netflix is free, then you are disrespectful to yourself. You don't value your time. You are basically telling yourself that you're worthless, right? That's exactly what's happening here. So if you feel that Netflix is free, think again. It's costing you a lot of time. In fact, you should pay Netflix to not be free, to be away from you, because it's costing you a lot of time, right? But yeah, I think I hope I answered that question. Try to be a part of different communities, follow the right people on Twitter and Reddit, etc., and try to consume that content and much more than what I can tell you in next 20-30 minutes. You will learn from those places, right? Let's go to the next one. It's from Bit Misra. I think you're speaking about curiosity and questions. How does one ask the right questions? That's a great question. Thanks for that. I think questions are like notes. I think one of the things which you will realize is that when you are listening to a talk like this, and if it's not relevant, for example, the reason I'm doing this Q&A is because I want to talk about things which can help you. I could go on like gaga about myself and what I'm building in different industries, which are completely irrelevant to you guys. And I know that after 5 minutes, you will just lose attention. An average human attention span is less than, a few minutes. And I think if you just try to spend time listening to a talk and trying to frame questions, it's really hard. I think first is you have to be really, really attentive to what's happening out there. The second one is I think trying to frame a question around things which are going on right now is basically you trying to stay in the present. And then based on whatever comes to your mind, I think people have less trouble in framing those questions. They have more trouble in just getting it out there, right? So I think questions are as the simpler they are, the better they get, right? For example, if you have to learn how do you sort of make your investments better, your question should be, how can I make more money using investments? It's like simple, straight up, direct, and it's very, very specific, right? So I think whenever you're asking any question, the more specific and direct you can be, that is best. How to find mentors, like-minded people, how to network, and 5 growth-minded friends. So I think finding 5 growth-minded friends is an interesting one because it's going to take a lot of time. It's much harder than what it looks, right? And also, growth-minded friends is like there are no growth people. There are just people who are interested about similar stuff that you are into, right? And I can give you a heads up that a lot of times this journey can be extremely, extremely lonely, and you have to be just fine with it. If you find people, it's like a great thing. Finding mentors, just email them. a lot of people, I think one hack I can tell you is that if you're trying to find mentors, people go to founders a lot of times when they're looking for mentors. What they don't understand is that majority of founders who are currently working on something extensive have very little time, because trying to run a company and learning how do you run a company at the same time is a very, very difficult job. It's like trying to, I think Paul Graham said once that building a company is like trying to fly while assembling a plane. You take a leap of faith and you build a plane on the way. It's exactly like that. So in the middle of that, if someone is trying to survive and trying to build a plane after making a jump, you go to them and ask that, how do I use this? Can you mentor me to, use this part of the plane, etc. They will probably not have bandwidth to do so, right? So I would advise that while looking at mentors, first of all, you should reach out to more people. People don't reach out, right? I love Tata Sky dialogue, मांगने से मिलता है, right? There are more mentors out there in the industry right now than people who want to seek things. There are no seekers. There are more people who want to give back, because every single person who has made it has had so many people who supported that person, right? So they always and always want to give back. And every legitimate person would just want to give back without expecting anything in return, right? I've had countless mentors like that. And how do you get them? Just try to make sure you don't approach constantly. Try to optimize for approaching people who probably will have more time, and just reach out to a lot of them. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, reach out to them on email. Learn how do you do sales, and learn how to build databases and set up outbound campaigns. And set an outbound campaign and send like 20 emails every single day, right? I can give you certain tools right now. Reply.io, go for that. Try to build a database from Crunchbase, and email all of them, right? There are a bunch of LinkedIn automation tools out there. Prospector is one of them. You can automate 100 LinkedIn messages getting sent every day to mentors, right? You can apply filters to create a list of them, right? My only request would be, please don't push all those messages to me. I think I'm going to die. But yeah, I think you should just reach out to way too many people, and then you will get a lot of people, right? So I think people just say I don't get a mentor, but they haven't really texted even 20 people, right? So you need to text 100 people. I'm pretty sure you will find 2 to 3 people who is going to help you. The next question is, great, Ayush, thanks a lot for taking my question. Much appreciated. Thanks, Apur. Thanks for asking. Is it good to take dropout for startup? It's very subjective. It's really hard. Also, I don't want your parents to call me. but I think whether to drop out or not is a very subjective question, because dropping out before you have proof of concept for yourself, or conviction, or persistence, because when you're deciding to drop out, you're signing up for a very difficult journey. There is no proven path. You cannot follow the path of people who have dropped out before. It's basically jumping into an unknown territory without knowing where you will go, right? The reason I decided to drop out was pretty simple. I did not want to take my career in a direction where the curriculum of my college was pushing me to, right? I did not want that curriculum. I wanted to learn something else. And I looked up the curriculum for my entire 4 years, and I realized that I can learn more things by myself rather than via this, right? It was too much hustle, and also 75% attendance, right? that doesn't work. So I just decided to quit. But I guess it's a very non-traditional path. I would highly recommend all of you to actually work at startups for a few years. Every journey, if you want to start up, you will have a successful company in about 4 to 5 years. It's really difficult to start something off and be successful. Most probably, right? Every story is a 4 to 5 year journey, right? So I think if you spend some time at existing startups, learning from people who have done it before, that is like a much more efficient way of learning than trying to figure out everything by yourself, right? So I think I had to hustle a lot. I had to go through a lot. I had a bunch of healthcare issues as well, and it was just a lot of hustle. And I felt that I could have. I just had to do it because I made these decisions and I own those decisions and I don't regret anything. But then I would recommend, if you have a better path, you should take it. So don't drop out just because it's cool. Drop out because you have a plan for it and you're signing up willingly for hell for next 2 3 years, and signing up to do whatever it takes to get there, right? Um, the next question is from Apurv. What do you think, which is the strongest skill a founder leader should really have? By the way, Vaibhav, that was a really good question. Whoever asked, how do you frame questions? That is how you frame questions. um, so, strongest skill for a founder or leader, I think a couple of things. One is the ability to take risk. I think that is something which I've seen most of the founders have. I just moved to, for example, SF in January. I think California was at 60,000 cases at the time. And I just had my data points said that Pesto is benefiting more if someone is there in US doing sales, etc., and building a team here. And that made sense. And I told my mom that I'm going there in a couple of days. I looked up the flights, whatever was soonest, I booked it. So in 2 days, packed my bags, I'm here, right? Um, though it was normal to me, some of my friends gave me reactions later on that this is crazy. How can you do this? How does one change country in a couple of days in the middle of the pandemic? When the world is falling apart. But I did not think about any of those things. But and it's not just me. I know a lot of other founders. I've seen people I admire who have to take drastic decisions. And I feel that the ability to take risk, which I've seen amongst founders, is like highest. So that is one. The second one, which I would point out to, is persistence. Persistence is something which is key, because I think if you're someone who is going to give up, who is starting up because you want to make money, and you will give up when going gets tough, you should not start up in the first place. You should only start up only and only when you're truly and extremely passionate about what you're working on. So I would think 10 times before starting up. The cause which you're working on should motivate you, should make you get out of bed early every day, and bring that energy in you, right? Otherwise it's just not going to work. So look for passion, be persistent, and take risks. The biggest risk you can take is to not take any risks. So yeah, taking risks is good. How do you pick the right people for a project? To be honest, in college you don't have a choice. The people who sign up are the right people. You need to make it happen. I've been there. I've seen people will come after a couple of months. They'll be like, I'm not really, I think I'm going to start playing basketball or whatever. And then they will quit. And you'll be like, that is so stupid. You're quitting for basketball? That is going to happen. Expect that. And you're the one who needs to drive it. You need to be the magnet. You need to be persuasive. You need to convince your people. But expect that most of the people which come to you will not stick. So I guess in college, you need to work with what you have. So don't look for the right people, just look for people and get shit done. And if you happen to find some great people, good luck. You're lucky. Have you onboarded some amazing industry leaders as co-founders? You have onboarded. Okay, yeah, that's right. Could you give your key points on networking or building great professional relationship? I think everyone is a human being, right? I think when you are on your journey, the world will notice. And it's just impossible that the world won't notice. And if you are constantly trying to remove unknown unknowns from your life, and in general, if you're a giver in all relationships, I think the key to relationships is to be a giver. I think my natural instinct in any relationship, even when it's my customer, right? When I get in touch with a customer and I'm doing sales, my natural instinct is, how can I help? What else can I do to be more helpful, right? I think if you just have that attitude towards everyone, you will end up making relationships from long-term perspective, which will do great. So I think you should just be kind, gentle, work hard on your things, and there are enough people out there who recognize it, appreciate it when you do well, and when you don't do well, they will try to help you as well. So I think you should just focus on that, right? And I think that alone will take you to places. It's not rocket science. People say that if an ex founder will raise X Y amount of capital, people will say, "Oh, that's a prodigy. They started the company at 19, yada yada." Those are lies which you should not believe. There is no prodigy. There is sincerity. There is hard work. If you're sincere and you work hard and you're decently smart, which I'm guessing you will be because you have been sincere and working hard, you will get there. And there's nothing extraordinary or special which people have. There's no magic wand. There is sincerity and there is hard work, right? Just stick to it. Be self-disciplined. Read this book called Make Your Bed. I really admire that book. It says that if you want to change the world, start with making your bed, right? Those are the basic things which keeps you up in life. If you are self-disciplined, like I think the book says, the first thing which you do when you wake up is to make your bed. That gives you the confidence to do the next thing, which is brush your teeth. Then you brush your teeth. That gives you the confidence to do the next thing, which is to take a shower. When you take a shower, you're back to your workplace and you've already done 3 successful things. Then you start your day. You either have a good day or you have a bad day. If you have a good day, you're happy, you'll sleep well. If you have a bad day, you return to a bed which is already made, right? I think this is as simple as that. Have self-discipline and keep working hard and you'll get there. How can you be calm during hustle project? I think a lot of people mistake hustle for aggression. Those things are not equal. Hustle is basically trying to relentlessly pursue something after multiple failures and trying to work hard. That does not mean that you have to work hard by being aggressive and shouting and stuff like that, right? It doesn't matter. But I'll give you one really amazing thing which I learned from someone. Whenever you are in a situation, if you're at the airport, one bag is lost, right? When you're in stressful situations like that or anything else, right? I think I would just ask myself that can you do something about it? If the answer is yes, then why worry? If you know exactly what you have to do, then just go do it. Then ask yourself again, can you do something about it? And if the answer is no, then why worry? You can't do anything anyways. It's already gone, it's past, you can't change it, right? So worrying and being angry or losing your calm is not going to help do anything, right? So conserve energy, right? So I think once you really get this philosophy and adopt it and practice it, you'll feel much better and you'll be much happier, right? Because there's no reason logically for you to lose your calm. That's what I'm trying to say. Shreyas is asking, you said value your time. I want to ask how to overcome distraction and without losing internet, as we tend to do work regularly as we get bored. That is work regularly, we get bored. So I think first of all, you should not work on whatever is getting you bored. Just drop it. Try to find what is exciting, right? Is esports exciting? Is sports exciting? Is education exciting? Is I don't know, space science exciting? Whatever excites you, first of all, work in that field. And I promise you, something will excite you. You need to explore more. If you're not getting excited by anything, then probably what will excite you is you're in your unknown territory, right? So if you're not getting excited by anything, just keep exploring because you will get excited by something. And when you find it, I promise you, it'll be the most magical experience. You won't be able to stop thinking about it. Like, you'll think about it every single minute of your day, even while sleeping, right? Now, how do you get rid of distractions? I think I have something really nice for you there. There's an app which I use called Rescue Time, right? Now, talking about distractions, um, How does distractions happens? World's smartest people are working to keep you hooked, to keep you looking at your screen. Why? For a simple reason. They make money like that. How does Facebook make money? They make money when you look at ads, which means that they have to do two things: buy, get more ads, get more companies who will sell ads, and the second thing is get your eyes on the screen. So Facebook has the best of the best AI in the world, which is optimized. They exactly know what kind of content will get you hooked. They know you better than yourself, right? They know which piece of content will make you continue to watch that particular video or picture, etc. And every time you fail, it's a success for them because you're teaching their AI what you will get hooked to next, right? So it will get you. There is no escaping it from that, right? So the way you need to do that is, first of all, become very self-disciplined. Self-discipline, if you learn just that in your entire college, I would say it's the greatest skill to have. The second thing is, use apps, get more sort of things in your arsenal, right? Facebook has machine learning algorithms, AI, etc., etc. You don't have any tool, you need tools as well. Download this app called Rescue Time. What it does is that it limits time on each app, and every distracting app which will be there, it will block that. And you can set focus time in that, in which if you're getting to work for an hour, you set focus time for an hour, and none of the distracting websites will open, even when you click on it. So if there's a notification which pops up, you won't open that. I think in today's world we don't even need notification, right? If you just open a new tab and you press F, we know what's going to happen there, right? Our subconscious brain presses Facebook, Instagram, whatever, automatically. You open your phone, your hand will automatically go to Instagram, right? Because that's what you do all day. Your brain is wired to do that. So you need a tool to remind you that, hey, you're pressing Instagram. Do you want to choose not to do that? Right? And then you're in control. If you say, oh, let me just skip it, then you're not self-disciplined. But if you are self-disciplined, then you'll say, I don't want this distraction right now, let me focus on work, right? So that's how you get rid of distraction. And it's really hard, but I think I wish you master that. It must be difficult making connections. Yeah, go ahead. Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Now, this is like something which has always been there. I think. What's the crowd? Is this crowd engineering or business, or it'll be a mix? Okay, so people who have been to engineering, right? Everybody will agree that, oh, I like physics and maths, but I have to study chemistry because with chemistry that's how I make it into a good college, and then I'll get rid of it, right? It's a question like that, whether you do it or you don't do it, right? So I'd say like the process will almost always be interesting. And if it's boring, I promise you there's a way to automate it. I have done the most boring things in the world, and I kept doing it because I think my end goal was clear to me, which is what motivates me, right? But then I also found ways to automate the boring things. Check out Zapier. I can give you some stuff which can help you learn how to automate Google Sheets and stuff like that, right? Check out Zapier. It's an app using which you can automate most of your workflow, right? Um, there are a lot of tools out there around automation, and if you're also a programmer, you can do that. But I'd say like you should not really worry about these small things. Try to recruit people, try to convince your friends to help you out, try to build a team, try to do all of that. Small things should not hold you down. If you have your eyes clear on the goal, just keep going. If you're getting distracted by something which is boring and makes you quit on the project, then probably the goal which you chose was not right. You're not truly passionate about it. You're bullshitting and you're trying to pretend that you're passionate about it, but you're actually not. So I think just stay honest with yourself. If you're truly passionate about it, these things would just not bother you. Yep. Cool. The next question is, it must have been difficult making connections in SF, getting hires on board. Could you elaborate on that process? I mean, the way you put it, it's absolutely right. It was difficult to make connections, but you just have to go through the process. You need to reach out to more, like a lot of people. The people you have chats with, you make friends, and then you ask your friends to introduce you to two more people. Then those two people you will have chat with, then you ask them to introduce you to two more people. I've been doing that for last 6 7 years. That is how I got to know people. And I've been building connections in SF for the last 5 years, even when I was not here, right? So I think we need to understand that no matter who the person is, every single person, no matter how big, small, successful, or not so successful they are, they're all human beings. So treat people with respect in general, right? Whether they are successful or they're not successful. I think if you're just respectful to everyone and kind and generous and humble, I think you will just end up building your universe around you almost always. It's not. I'd say it's not too difficult building connections. I think what's more difficult is to become a giver, have the attitude of helping others, and constantly trying to contribute to the ecosystem. That's more difficult. You know, if you learn how to do that, connections and network will automatically build itself. You know? um, if it's a first mover startup, totally new business idea, then how to find the right people. By the way, if you said it's a totally new business idea, you need to know better. It's it's incredibly hard. The dot com bubble world is gone. Whatever you're working on, if you think that if by sharing my idea somebody is going to steal it, you're absolutely wrong. No one can. In fact, if I had an idea like that, I would distribute it to 10 other people who can build it and make something big, and that will create a market around that industry, and I will try to ride the same wave in that market, right? So I think you should not think about it from that perspective. It's hard to find totally new business ideas, but if you do, then I think business, like having a business idea has nothing to do with finding the right people. And as I said, you just need people who can get the job done. um, and I feel that you should just try to find people. Like, these are both mutually exclusive comments. Like, finding people is very different from a new business idea. So that's why I think like this question is kind of broken. um, yeah, so don't worry about business idea, just find the right people. And I think about finding the right people, try to be ambitious, try to find people and work with great people in general, because great people attract great people, right? It's compounding in nature. So always try to curate that impact. And I think if I have to tell for myself, one of the things I care about the most is to get to work with awesome people. That's like one of the most selfish interests I have in this journey of building a company. I want to work with great people, because great people make me feel better, make me learn, make me humble, and make me explore more. So I think, yeah, that's the one. How do we see street smart? Uh, I don't know how to answer this, but I think just I think just thinking simple, like really simple manner in which you're not complicating things, will get you to street smartness, right? Like, people basically don't, most of the people don't go by pure logic. If you're going by pure logic and you're really straight thinker, then you get clarity. And that clarity, most of the people refer to as street smartness. For me, it's not street smartness, it's just clarity, right? Clarity of thought and logic, right? So I think that's how I look at it. So if you have clarity of thought and logic, others will call you street smart. But all you are is a logical person with clarity. What do you think about podcasts, and would you want to be a speaker on my podcast? Haha, sorry. Yeah, I think you. Thanks for asking, Apoor. I'm humbled, and I would love to be on your podcast for sure. Uh, I'm just slightly out of bandwidth because I have like a limited time overlap with India, and a lot of stuff is going on right now. But I appreciate you considering me. About in general podcasts, I think they're great. I think they're intellectually really inspiring. There's this club called Clubhouse, which I would encourage all of you to join as well. I personally do a lot of podcasts. I've started focusing a lot on my health recently, and I think one of the things I do is just take a long walk and listen to a bunch of podcasts. And these days, it's more of Clubhouse, less of podcasts. But I think that really helps get some interesting conversations and stuff that I'm curious about. And I really like doing that. So yeah, I mean, go for a podcast. It's really nice and gives you a lot of perspective about different things. Um, Working on a startup can be, oh, I'm actually starting a podcast as well. It's not a podcast, but more like a live conversation starting next week. So you guys can just keep checking out Twitter, and I'll post on that. It's called Tiny World. I'll be talking to people who have built successful remote businesses. So that might help you get some perspective into how they think and what are the things they care about as well. Working on a startup can be very stressful with constant ups and downs. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I agree. What is your suggestion for stress management? I think, Utkarsh, one simple answer. I think the framework which I use is exactly the same, which you said earlier, right? What will stress do? Like we were just talking about street smartness, right? I said street smart person is somebody who is logical and has clarity of thought, right? And that is exactly what I'm trying to do here. You said, what is your suggestion for stress management? I'm like, why do you even need to manage stress? Why does stress even exist? Is it going to help you in any way? If things in the ups, is it going to help you? Is stress productive for you? Are you someone who likes, who works much better if you're stressed? If that's the case, have a couple of friends to constantly who constantly make you stressed. But if that's not the case, then I can promise you that having a lot of stress is not going to make you more productive. And I think it just shouldn't exist, right? So I think in general, it should not matter. Around management, I think I can sort of talk about a couple of other things which people relate as stress management. I think having a healthy lifestyle is something which I underestimated a lot. I feel I am so much more productive by eating really well and doing physical exercise, right? I play tennis or basketball every day almost now, and that really gets me going, keeps me in the present, and makes me extremely productive. And the second thing I do is eat well. I have stopped sugar intake. Sugar is so much bad for our body. I did not know that earlier. We all have this feeling, right? That I'm feeling lazy. Oh, let me just sleep. Let me just do that. Let me try to work while I'm also taking a nap on the bed, right? All of these feelings which we feel like, in which we just feel like shit, right? It's hard to describe how that feeling is. But that feeling actually comes from what you put in your body. You should really treat your body as a temple, and you will really not understand anything which I just said until you try it. So you need to learn about sleeping well and learning about what you should put in your body, how much protein should go in, how much carbs should go in, when you should eat carbs, when you're exercising, what you should eat, so on and so forth. And once you do that, I promise you it'll be the most life-changing things which you will learn about. Before you learn building startups and all of this, I encourage you to please go ahead, read about sleep in this book called Why We Sleep. You can check that out. Why We Sleep. It will talk about, you know, all the chemicals which gets released in your brain and how does it benefit you, etc., etc. And the second thing which I would urge you to learn about is what you should put in your body, right? So I think both of these things will be really life changing for all of you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. President. Are you here?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Prajwal, for moderating the session. And first of all, I'd like to apologize to Ayush sir because we had to start the session for 30 minutes delayed because of some
Yeah,
technical issues.
it's all good. It's all
And
good.
thank you so much, sir, for being so grateful and kind to accept that. And also, sir, this was a very amazing session. Like personally, I have followed you a lot. First time when I got to know about you was through the Ranveer show when you came for the
Sure.
podcast, and when I knew about Pesto beforehand, but I never actually studied about you. But when I saw you on that podcast, mine was blown, and I have been a constant inspiration for me from that time only. So thank you so much for that as well, and thank you so much for being so kind and accepting our invitation and doing this wonderful session. It was really a pleasure to have you with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was nice being here. And I would say you should not idealize me or anyone else. I think you guys will do
Yes,
much better things in life than us. You have more time, right? So
yes, sir.
well, wish you all the best. And thanks for all the great questions, guys. That was good. Just great being here. And if you have any other questions, just hit me up on Twitter, etc., and I'll try to answer if there's anything specific I can help you with. But I'm glad we got through all the questions. Awesome being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Cool. Take care. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Take care.
हाँ हाँ देखा मैंने